All right, that's a huge rock. Okay, I've spent the entire time that I've been here trying to figure out how I can do this on a weekly basis, and I figured out a couple of things so that I could come here at least once a week in the morning. So I'm gonna share that. So we're here at the beach on this Wednesday morning. It's quite unusual. We're never doing this normally. Wow, the waves are pretty phenomenal. So we're here, it's about 9:30. We're gonna be here for about only half an hour to 40 minutes. Okay, so we are heading over to the tide pools to see if there's anything, and the tide seems to be going out, which is kind of thankful, actually, because it seemed like it was pretty high. I want to walk you through the process of how we did our nature study at the beach. The first thing is that we didn't have a tremendous amount of time at the beach, but we were going consistently 1 to 2 times a week over the course of about 6 to 8 weeks, which allowed us to be able to observe subtle changes in this little stretch of our beach over the course of those weeks and months. It also allowed us to observe the changes in the tides. Sometimes the tide was really high, other times it was moderately low. But what I found was that week after week, no matter how high or low the tide was, there was always things that we could find. And this was really thrilling because sometimes you might go into an environment and it's not the peak time for that environment, or it's not the best weather, or it's too hot, or it's too cold. But the thing is that when you go to a particular place over several days or weeks or for many hours, you'll get to observe those subtleties that you wouldn't otherwise be able to observe, and you will always find something that's worth observing and reflecting upon. You can see the water rush in and rush out of this little area here where, look at that, where the rocks are a little bit lower and then they're a little higher here, but it's quite dangerous because if a big wave comes in or the tide is coming in, you can fall and hurt yourself pretty badly. So work and play on the tide pools with caution. All right, so we're here at the beach, but it's extremely high tide today, so there's not much beach left for us, and the surf is also pretty intense. And so we are staying on the rocks, and we can still find some beautiful specimens to study, but we will take our art supplies over to the beach after we're done exploring the tide pools, which are mostly submerged in water. But sometimes that happens, but overall, our nature study at the beach has been really fantastic because we've been able to see all the different variations of this beach throughout the past month during mostly high tide and then some low tide opportunities. And so it's been really nice to kind of observe those changes over the course of a month and still find amazing specimens to study. So we're just gonna hang out here a little bit longer and then head to the beach. I'm not sure if this is a clam shell or a cockle shell. There's some things that you can know about the exterior of the shell, whether the ridges go in this direction or in this direction, and whether there is this little notch on the side. So those are some telling marks to help you identify what kind of clam or cockle bivalve this is. And you can see there's some beautiful brown seaweed growing on the end of it, and the inside is just magnificent. Kind of had an idea in my mind that our time was going to be divided up into about 2 to 3 sections. And we didn't have enough time to really go through all these different stages, and so on occasion we had to carry on this work in our home.
Wait, do I go down? Do I go in?
I would only just go up. And then fan it out. And then you may need to take, if you notice, there is a little bit of, there are little tiny pockets. What kind of bird is that? There are little tiny pockets on the seaweed, and you can see them. They're not everywhere, but you can see them like right there. There's some really tiny little pocket, like bubbles. And then I just did like a little drop. You may need, well, you may need to wash. No, you need to use a finer tip. Very beautiful. Very nice. Very nice. I love that color. 1 second, my love. Use the tiniest. Yep, and then you're just gonna almost like just drop. I would do in a brown green. I would mix the brown with the green. I would mix that brown with the green. Okay? And then just do tiny little... Yeah, that bird. I don't know what it is. Yep. And then tiny drops. And I would use, since yours is quite a bit brown, I would use more brown than green. Okay? When we initially get to the beach, the children like to play, they like to explore, they like to discover. And this is a really important part of this whole process. And I allow them to do that first so that they get it out of their system, so that they're completely ready to focus on something else that's a little bit maybe more academic, a little bit more educational. Now, you might reverse it and do your lesson immediately when you get to the beach, a very short 5 to 10 minute lesson. That way the remainder of the time is one of fun and exploring and discovery. Once the children are done exploring, which could be a really long time, but you can kind of see the children go into different cycles. You can see the peak of their excitement, and then you can start to see it wane. As it starts to dip down, I find that to be a really great time to encourage the children to bring up the next level of observations, like the next power of their observations. I find this time to be a great opportunity to invite the children into a deeper level of observation. This is the time where I can point out things that maybe they had overlooked or they hadn't noticed, or maybe they noticed it, but it wasn't something that they paid attention to on a deeper level. So subtleties like the ridges on a shell, or the colors of the seaweed, or how high or low the tide is for that particular day. Those are things that I don't have to say, oh, did you see that? Or I can tell you about that. Rather, it's one of me just sharing my observation. Oh, the tide is especially low today. Or I wonder if the tide is lower today than it was last week. Or, oh, these ridges on this shell are really nice, or they're going in this direction. Or, oh, look how you can see a little bit of green on that seaweed and a lot of red on this side of the seaweed. Those are things that I'm bringing authentically to my children because it's something that sparked my interest. And in doing so, they see two things: something that they might have not seen before, and also they see me being excited about what I am observing. And I think that that brings another level of excitement for them when they are exploring that environment.
Wow, there comes a big one.
At this point, you can gently bring in some academic background. This might take some forethought, and on occasion I would pre-read some things that I wanted to share with them. On other occasions, I would in my mind think, I want to find this type of shell or this type of animal or this type of plant because I have researched that and I want to take the opportunity to share with them what I know about this. But more than sharing what you know, it is of greater importance, in my opinion, to share the excitement, to share the curiosity, and to help the children be curious on their own and to enjoy that process.
Yeah.
Wait until it opens and then
Well, you can try another one, but be gentle, okay?
I did it by myself. Wait. Bunch of tiny ones.
Okay, so who's eating who? Is that sea anemone eating the hermit crab, or is the hermit crab eating the Oh my goodness! That hermit crab is getting all into that sea anemone. I don't know who's eating who. I have to look it up. That is pretty phenomenal.
Where I
Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh, you know what? The hermit crab is eating something off of the sea anemone. Not the sea anemone itself, but on its tentacles, it's eating something.
There's some right here.
Sometimes we look at it as not educational or not academic to be curious, but really the curiosity and the interest then lead to the education and the academics later. So rather than naming everything that I see or giving a lot of dry background, I find that being excited about what I find and then looking it up with them to say, oh, I'm not sure if if this is this type of seaweed or this other type of seaweed, let's look it up and figure it out so that the next time we're here, we can name it correctly. You can begin with some broad terms, and then as you become more familiar with your environment, you can get more specific with what you're seeing. The third level of this kind of nature study is one in which you are, in a way, retelling what you have learned in the form of a drawing or a watercolor. And if the children are older, it could include some narration, either oral or written. And this was a little bit challenging for us to do in the field. So that's a lot of seaweed on the beach, and it has a really strong smell. Not so strong yet because it's still early in the day. It's mixed with like this salty ocean air and that beautiful beach. That color, that aqua clear color, is just breathtakingly beautiful. This is kind of cool. These I think they're called rushes. They have been grown here specifically in order to clean the water. This is runoff before it makes its way into the ocean. I still don't like the kids playing in the runoff, but I really like the creative and environmental ways that the city has used in order to protect the environment and to clean this water and also make it look really beautiful. They have volunteers at the beach to show some of the different things that you're gonna find on these beaches. So beautiful. And there's a volunteer that works here too. She's out probably collecting trash. She's so inspirational. And so next week when I come here, I also want to bring a paper bag and start collecting trash because there's a ton of it. As the tide comes in, there's just a lot of rubbish and things like that. So very impressive. All right, so I hope these tips and this glimpse into our nature study was helpful for you. I would love to know how you approach this subject in your homeschool. So if you'd like to see some of the other videos in our nature unit, you can tap on the screen right now. And don't forget that if you want to see what our homeschool looks like on a daily basis, you can find me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.